Hello everybody, Core Conversations for Thursday. It is a Freestyle Thursday, and Dad Wheels as always. We can talk about that. Have a couple things that we are going to address today, and thank you for joining us. No scheduled guests but you, so feel free to jump in the chat, request to join me on screen, and we can just talk about what's going on and how we can support. Brittany Murphy for real, what's going on? Couple housekeeping things here. So, Activate Academy was our guest for the podcast. Activate. It's tough to type. Is our podcast guest. So, Brittany, where are you located? Like, subscribe, and share. Bam. There. Done. Just sending a few notes to some people here, let them know what's going on. Toronto. Okay, there you go, Brittany. Oh, you're on the fine tune one. Okay, there you go. I was wondering why I sent in your chat like followed by fine tune. Very cool. Did we book a session? Did we book a time in for you to come in? I can't remember if we have something set up for next week. I think so. We're gonna wait for a few more people to jump into the chat, and then we're gonna jump into this. Doing a recap. Yes, that's right. It's gonna be fun. Doing a recap of the conversation from yesterday for those who are watching the replay later. Yesterday on the show with Missy Lynn, we had Carrie Thomas. She jumped into one of our lives and we had a conversation that was really cool. I want to bring her back in to expand on those topics of ultimately healing through movement. And I tied in a little bit of a story from my background and how I got into personal training and fitness in general. And so please watch yesterday's thing. Watch the podcast, listen to the podcast that dropped yesterday. Connie Bolio just is doing some great work with this Activate Academy. Her conference is coming up, so please follow that. Brittany, do you have anything that's coming up? You can put it in the chat, any like online workshops, workouts, that sort of thing. Put it in there. And then as we're just waiting, I started late, so it just kind of pushes back everything a little bit. So I have an interesting topic for us today, and it kind of piggybacks off of a question that I always ask, and cruising into the spring. Nice. And then the whole question is around what finds you. So we'll do that in a few minutes. Carrie Thomas brought in so many different points yesterday, just talking about how we need to be persuasive and make life uncomfortable for our people, but do it in such a gentle way that they're open to the challenge of getting better without being discouraged by the point of where they're at. So it was really good to hear that conversation where we're continuing to help people to feel better in their skin and in their movement practice and in their kind of their headspace as well through our exercise. So keep leaning into that. There's that's what we're talking about, like need for movement, strength, range of motion, and then also looking into like the whole spirit, soul, and body piece as well. So there's a lot there. Hey, Kara. I have a few topics today that we're going to be touching on. So I know that I started late today. For those of you just jumping into chat now, I started late today because I was watching a replay from yesterday. And something that was said yesterday is still ringing in my ears, and I want to bring it up today for us to talk about it. And it's all around the questions that I ask around who your ideal client is. And Carrie's answer yesterday was interesting. It wasn't really provocative, but it was something that made me think, and it's something that I realized too from my life. So I'll throw that out there. Kara, since you're in the chat, if you want to answer it, I'll start by asking everybody in the chat, who is your ideal client? Who is your ideal client? I'll leave that out there for a second. And Tasha. Rest, stop. Yeah, we talked about fearlessness and courage. Lots of stuff, lots of good stuff that was happening this week. So that Kara in canvas, someone who is curious is Kara's answer. Yes, Reach Pilates, I believe it was. Back in the day, was saying that someone who's curious and courageous, and that was, I think, that's still my favorite answer to date. Someone who's curious and courageous, and the answer that Carrie gave yesterday was also one of my favorite answers. And so yes, curious, and I love adding courageous to that. So Carrie, that's a great answer. But what does even curious mean, right? Like, can you, like, I want to unpack even the curious part, because like it seems simple, but I'm sure there's more in it for people when they walk in here. That open-mindedness to, like, what's going to happen if I do this? And like, I've heard some of the answers that people have given, and some really intuitive people out there, and what would happen if you did this? Like, what if you stand on this foot and try this exercise? How would this look? And just like our curiosity like leading the journey or their curiosity, like that sort of thing, like just like exploring this type of movement. And maybe I read something about kettlebells. Let's see if kettlebells works, or what does this Pilates thing mean, or maybe I should try this, whatever, right? So that's a piece of it. That's definitely a piece of it. It's funny that you mentioned that. Like Kara's comment, for those watching after the fact, says, I love taking people from I can't do that to can I do that? Yes. And that's fun, you know. And it was just last week I was taking people through a series of exercises, and just from my own curiosity, I took 3 of my clients through the same sequence of exercises, same order of exercises, with making accommodations for them. So it wasn't like, this is what we're doing. It was like, I'm gonna try and get them to this place, and where do I have to take stop-offs to ensure that they can get them there? So it's focusing on some exercises, different exercises and stuff. But there was 2 people in particular who are the most eternal optimistic people that I know, that I got them to, I can't do this. And the reason why that I can't do this was significant is because there is a safety that they operate within, and they got to a place of being courageous enough to go beyond that boundary and find out what that end line was. So they weren't afraid to fail. They actually were doing an exercise to failure, to a point where they could say, I can't do it, in a safe way, so that we now know what the threshold is and what we need to push against for growth. So all I can't do's aren't bad. And I know that it's a kind of different conversation than the one we're having here, but it made me smile a couple times last week when I heard them say, I can't do that, because it was like they were in the middle of doing it and didn't stop when they felt uncomfortable. They stopped when they physically couldn't do it anymore. And I thought it was fantastic, because that's the edge of growth. So it was cool to see it happen a couple times last week. So that was just a sidebar. I just remembered that when I read your comment there, Kara. Kara's second comment is, when they have already come in with the I can't do that mindset, it opens things up so much. And that's exactly it. So that's the I can't do that we see more often than not, is that I don't think that I can do this. And then we introduce them to, I can do this, or can I do this? That's possible. Let's try that. We create that space for them to find the courage to explore movement, explore their end range in a different way. So yes, those moments make me smile as well. So I like that a lot. Thanks for sharing those. Dr. E.J. Groth. Hi, Aaron. How are you? So the reason why the title is What Finds You is because when I asked Carrie what she thought of that and who our ideal person was, so she was saying that she likes working with able-bodied people who understand what their limitations, what their accommodations need to be, and you can just go. You can push, you can explore movement, you can give them challenges, you can pull some exercises out of your library that you don't usually use, and you can have fun with it. She said, by contrast, she also has people that are at the end of their rope. People who walk in who are like, I'm having hip surgery and I've never exercised before. What should I do? Neurological challenges, things along those lines. So she gets a lot of that population. And she was saying when she was working in a big box gym setting, many times she got people that were like the people that no one else wanted to work with, like the, you know, those you know, they're a little more challenging, maybe a more higher need, and it's not going to be as fun or as sexy as working with this population. So you end up getting those people. So those were the people that she ended up getting, and she loved working with them, and she saw tremendous progress with them. And it was one of those things where she was recognizing that she has a talent with that. And she shared a story of one gentleman in particular and just his progress, and how even though he was non-communicative verbally, they figured out a way to make it work, and he was seeing progress, and he had these great moments, those crowning moments in your workouts, in your sessions as a personal trainer or a fitness professional, where you're like, these are my highlights. These are my best moments in teaching. This is why I got into it. Like, I don't know about you, but I love those, like, this is why I'm doing this moment. When someone does something that they didn't think they could do, and you help them to get to that place. That was their win, but you were like front row seat to that win for them. So she was sharing that. So the way that she phrased it was, her ideal client is this, but what finds me is this. So my question for you today is, what finds you? I can say that my best clients are athletes, men, this, that, the other. But what finds me are this. People who are looking for more than just a physical workout. People who want to kind of get a handle on something happening in their life emotionally. Someone who, whether they know I have a degree or not, they find that they can have conversations with me that they can't have somewhere else, because they know that there's going to be some clarity when they bounce it off of me that they don't get when they bounce it off of their colleague or their best friend or their spouse or whatever it is. So what finds me are people who are looking for a deeper meaning and deeper experience than just movement. What I like to work with, and what my ideal client is a guy who thinks that he knows everything about working out and doesn't realize that Pilates is a missing link for his training. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior or someone living with chronic pain, here's a new piece to my whole spiel, that wants to get better. If you are chasing after improvement, chasing after growth, I'm down. But what finds me is the people who want more. Meaning, understanding, depth. So I'm recognizing that sometimes those things overlap like one of those Venn diagrams when you're in high school, and there's other times when they're way over here in different off the screen moments, places. So there's so many different things that come into that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And as Kara's saying, I love those moments too. I live for them in many ways. I live for them. I chase after them with people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you're with people and you have a new person, you're like, this is going to be really fun when they realize that they can do this. I'm really excited about the day that they can touch their toes. That's going to be so cool when they come in and say that they slept through the night for the first time after not sleeping through the night for years, right? Like, look for those moments and like chase after those moments. So I'm loving that stuff. So yes, Kara, you're doing great work. I love what you're doing in the city, and it's been so fun watching you walk through this with your new space and journeying together. So it's very cool. Those were my thoughts. What finds you? I'd love to hear from you too, Kara, like whether you want to join me on screen or just continue to just chat in the comment section. What finds you? Is it the exact same thing as what you love to work with, curious people? Or is it something that you're like, oh, I'm noticing a trend here. I'm getting more women. I'm getting more young people. I'm getting more aging active adults. I'm getting more people who are referred from a doctor. I'm getting people who are walking distance. I'm getting people from the suburbs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many different nuances to it. Like, I'm getting, I have a young person on here. I wouldn't be surprised if I start to get some more young people now. What finds you? Just a thought. Kara, bringing you on. Hey, how's it
Hey,
going?
not much. How you doing?
I'm good. I love the background. Man,
Oh, thank you.
I
Well,
gotta just come and play in there. That looks so like so much fun.
in my second home. I don't know if you can
Yes.
see the rings are up and some
Yeah.
skylights. Yeah. Yeah, that's such an interesting question of like what finds you. Because I agree with sorry, what was the name of your guest yesterday?
Carrie Thomas.
Yeah, we have that idea of like I have that idea of like, oh, it's so fun when someone comes and they say like, I'm just curious. I just want to get strong. I want to, someone text like, I want to learn how to deadlift. And I'm like, ooh, okay. Like this is,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Especially women too, right? Like
Yeah.
okay. They're curious about what's possible for them in new things,
Yes.
right? I love that. But, and that does find me obviously, but to think about in a larger sense what finds me, I do think it's a little bit different from that. I think a lot of times I get people who start off in that mindset of wanting to wanting to change something about
Yes.
their bodies, but there's something about me and my messaging that feels different from most of the larger studios and the big box gyms, and so they're
Mm,
looking for a different environment, a different experience, a different tone. There's something about my little corner that feels a little bit more accessible to them.
yes.
I tend to get a lot of folks who have tried some of the larger chains that offer various strength and conditioning type classes that
Hmm.
feel intimidating to them. I get a lot of folks who have maybe tried that and it wasn't the right fit for them, or they got
Yes.
injured while doing
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of folks who have had negative experiences at larger gyms and they want to move, but they're looking for a space and a place that feels accepting of their bodies as they already are.
Yes.
I hear that a lot from folks,
Hmm.
because I don't talk about weight loss, because I don't deal in like 12-week
Body
fixed
transformation. Yeah.
plan, because I don't do any of that. I think that draws people who are, they know they want to move more, they know they
Hmm.
want to move better and feel better, but they don't want a space that's going to tell them that their body is already a problem.
So here's my question with that, just with that one little sliver. I have some bigger questions, but just
Yeah,
with that little sliver there. Are are those people, generally speaking, people that want to change their body but don't want any judgment in the journey, or people who like their body where it is and just want to move?
I think it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, okay.
No, I think it's more complicated. I think like I get people. I have a lot of folks who are coming to exercise from a mental health standpoint, whether as
Hmm.
part of their mental health journey.
Yeah,
I get folks who um, it's not, yeah, I don't even want to say it's as simple as like that there's anything they want to change about their bodies. They know that their life is very sedentary and they need to move more, you
hmm,
know, something they've seen there that they're curious about, like, oh, I want to see if I can do that.
love
um
that. Yeah.
yeah, but I also get a lot of folks who have um some body dysmorphia, past
Hmm.
some history with eating disorders, or disordered eating, I should say. Um, and they want a space where they can work through, movement can bring up trauma, right?
Yes.
So they
Yes.
want a space where they can work through some of that,
Hmm.
um, that feels safe. Does
Yes.
that make sense? Like,
Perfectly. Yeah, I've been really musing on that over the last little while in many ways, to the point where it's like spaces like your space there, there's intimacy.
yes.
There's like people want that intimacy. They want to be seen, heard, valued, know that they could be a face in the crowd if they want, or they can lean into a conversation if they want,
That's right. And I don't
right?
intentionally say, hey, this is going to be a space where we're not going to talk about weight.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But we
You just
don't,
go with it.
but we just don't talk about weight loss. We just
Mhm.
don't talk about body transformation. We talk about, you know, we talk about movement.
Mhm.
We talk about different ways to move better and move
Yes.
well and then ultimately feel better in so many
Right.
different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the conversations I have with people have always been around what your body can do,
Hmm.
as
That's
opposed to what your body looks like,
yes.
right? So, and there's a celebration of what your body's capable of, and let's expand what it's capable of. Let's get it moving optimally. And if there's body change that happens to accommodate that optimal movement, awesome.
Yeah. That's right. Some of my long time, regulars, they say that they want to get like a shirt made or pants made that say "Butts by Kara," because a lot of the work
Yeah.
that we do as trainers is posterior chain work, right? And so,
Yes.
I'm not going out here saying I'm going to, give you better glutes or shapely glutes. I'm saying I'm gonna, help your hip mobility. I'm gonna help you develop
Yes.
strength in your glutes and your hamstrings so we can take some of the pressure off the knees that you might be feeling, get your body
Hmm.
better. And one of those side effects is you might get some different shape in your glutes as well. Um,
Right.
that's
Yes.
that's just this like
Byproduct.
that happens.
For sure. It would be like saying, I'm gonna get you a girlfriend. And you're like, well, I'm gonna market my place so that guys can come and get a girlfriend. No, I'm actually just marketing it so that you can feel confident and your posture looks better. You can walk with your head held high. You can walk in, you can get that job, and you can feel. And then eventually, you might get the woman of your dreams because now you're in a headspace where you
You
have
were
confidence and you carry yourself, but not marketing to that way over there.
That's right. That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
There's
really interesting question. I like that question of like thinking about the difference between what's your ideal and what finds you. And I love that it is a Venn diagram, right? There is,
yeah,
there is a little bit there's a sliver in the middle. But yeah, it's an interesting question.
yeah, yeah. It just came out so organically yesterday, and I was like, let's hold on to that for a couple of days, right? Because yeah. And don't you feel like too, like when that person comes in that has an overlap,
Mhm.
like it's almost effortless. Like you're working just as hard, but it's just an effortless relationship that's being built there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no. And I had someone, so on the other side, I had someone, um, I've had a lot of new people in the studio the last couple of months, right? I'm in a new space,
Yes.
there's more
Hmm.
walking traffic. So I've had a lot of new folks. And there's a condo building steps away from me. So it's great. I'm getting some new people from the condo. Um, but it's in some ways there's as you said some younger people coming
Hmm.
in and some women who are really new to strength training. So,
Yes.
they started with the body weight class that I offer on Saturdays, and then decide to try out the strength and conditioning class that I have on, many days a week, but this was Tuesday night. And in
Hmm.
that class, I'm using kettlebells and dumbbells, the TRX, the rings, all kinds of stuff. And one of the women was really nervous about the weights and how heavy,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
And felt as though all of the weights were really heavy. And this is going to, and I was like, listen, I get it. It's new.
Hmm.
And I'm asking you to do things you haven't done before. And it is absolutely fine. Let's start with the lowest weight. And I'm going
Yes.
to show you how to do it in a way that it's not going to feel so heavy. I'm going to do it in a way
Hmm.
that you're going to feel a bit more comfortable going up. So yeah, let's get that lightest one. And I'm going to bring over a couple others. I'm going to help you work through it. And of course,
Right.
it didn't take very many reps. We were doing a deadlift for her to
Hmm.
realize, oh yeah, I
I'm
can
not going to hurt myself and I can do this.
I can do this in a way that this weight doesn't feel so heavy anymore. Right?
Hmm.
But
Right.
you got to give folks that space to like acknowledge that they're when it's new, it can be really nerve wracking. But
For
I love
sure.
quickly we can take people from the I can't do that
Hmm.
to can I do that? Okay, can I
Yes.
have your kettlebell? Can I do
Hmm.
that? Can I lift that leg maybe that little bit higher? Um, you know,
Yes.
I love seeing that swing. But wow, when they come in and they're already in that, I'm curious. I want to see. Can I do a pull up? Can I do
Yes.
a deadlift? Like it does feel effortless. It just feels
Yes.
okay. Let's go.
Let's go. Nice. When you said that earlier, just about your messaging, and it's not even necessarily like you have your vision on the wall, but like there's something in the messaging that says to people, this is what I need.
Mm, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I love it when people find me or they're referred to me by someone and you recognize that they're coming in with that sense of, okay, this is what I need. Not just like, oh, you have that brand of equipment, but like this relationship, working relationship is what I need right now.
That's right. And like with my one-on-one clients, I always start with like, let's do an assessment. And I try and
Yes.
be clear of like, I'm not going to be like looking to put you through all of your paces here. Like, I just want to see, and I always say to them, I just want to see how your body is moving today.
Hmm.
And just to give me an idea of the baseline, wear whatever you feel comfortable in. You want to wear a
Hmm.
sweater, that's fine. You don't have to like, I just want you to be comfortable. We're going to do some basic movements, right? But
Yes.
they'll say by the time we get to the end of the assessment, they might say something like, well, like I've never had someone like really look at my body in that way. And
Yes.
and it's to us, it's simple
Hmm.
movements. A lot of times for me, it's mostly mobility based movements. I want to, before I start programming overhead presses, I need to see
Right.
what happens when your shoulders do some simple mobility exercises, right?
Right. Right.
And I think it's too often that we rush, or that our industry has given out the impression that it's always about working as hard as possible as soon as possible, and
Hmm.
getting people, especially in the sort of personal training space that I'm in, maybe different in Pilates, but in the personal training space that I'm in, there's a lot of ego that feels like that gets wrapped up in, first session, I've got to get you into a sweaty mess. It's
Yes.
possible
I
to,
gotta crush you on the first session. Yeah.
to prove everything.
It's in the Pilates space too. It's the same thing in the Pilates space. Like that's the dialogue that I always have with people that you have a guy come into your space and you're like, okay, I'm gonna prove to them that Pilates can be hard. So
Mm,
just
right.
and just destroy them in the first session. So yeah, it's the same conversation.
Same conversation. And I feel so frustrated by that, it's not, that to me, it's got to be client first. It's not about me. It's about how are you moving and how can I help you to move better? How can I,
Yes.
take a look and say like, okay, so before we jump ahead
Hmm.
into saying we're going to do squats, let's see, what's your ankle mobility like? What's your hip
Right.
mobility like? Okay,
Hmm.
some things there that we need to address
Right.
before a barbell on your back or
For sure.
5 pound dumbbell in your hands. You
Hmm.
know, um, anyhow, I lost a little bit of the thread of where I
No, it's
started.
okay. Actually, I'm gonna jump on there because like that's exactly it. And for all the people out there in the fitness world who have come from a big box gym and then come from a boutique, circuit place, and then show up at our doorstep, they are also conditioned to be like, okay, the first session, this guy's gonna kill me because that's how we do. I'm ready for that.
They're
I
nervous.
feel they're nervous or they're locked in this paradigm that that's the only way it can be done. And one of the things that I've been saying of late is think of the dynamic warm up that a professional athlete goes through,
Mm, yes.
right? And for Usain Bolt to run sub 10 seconds, he may warm up for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So if we're doing movement prep and we're doing assessment and we're doing this, that, and the other, and it looks like we're not doing anything, and we walk away having done 2 exercises today, we took 45 minutes to make sure that you are going to feel this exercise where you're supposed to feel it, be efficient with that movement, and know how to do it when you're on your own next time or whatever the case is. So I kind of have to talk people into understanding that movement prep is important, recovery is important, range of motion is important. All these different things are important. So we're continually educating people on their body instead of just giving them a sweaty workout.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm gonna go in a little bit of a like youth sports soapbox as well. And I
Yes.
we start that from such a young age with
Right.
kids.
Yes.
And that idea that fitness is always supposed to like beat you down and make it hard. And when I, in previous years, have coached my son's rep baseball team, they'll tell me about being in gym class and having to hold a 5-minute wall sit or
Yes.
a plank that's, absurdly long.
6-minute plan.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm like, no, guys, I want to, first of all, no, you're not going to start throwing a baseball before we've warmed up. Just want to say that to anyone whose kids play baseball in the summer or
Yes.
coming in the summer. I'll see them on the field all the time. They'll start throwing before they've even warmed up their shoulders or their core. It's my pet peeves that I see happen all the time. I'm coaching the kids and I'm like, okay, first of all, we got to warm up properly. Baseball's a sport that's got all kinds of directional changes. You've got to go from fast to slow really quickly, or sorry, from slow to fast really quickly.
It's unilateral.
Oh my gosh, there's so much happening that we need to warm up your hips. We need to warm up your shoulders. We need to warm up your ankles. Like, we need to take our time before, especially when you get into their puberty years where there's so much change and development happening in their body, right? But I think I see it so often on the fields that the kids just jump into doing, plyometrics right away before they warmed anything up. They're doing movements with form that's just horrifying. Like, please stop holding that plank. Please stop, and let's focus on a short plank in good form. But anyhow, I think that we teach people at really a young age that there's some kind of punishment built into this thing. Movement.
Yeah. Right.
And it frustrates the heck out of me. And then they come to us when they're adults, and there's so much that we have to unpack. It's not just from the big box gyms. It's from like those young ages all the way up.
Right. Exactly. My son's basketball team, same thing. We're working through a lot of that stuff. And the conversation I had with the coach yesterday, and part of this too, further youth sports soapbox, is educating coaches, right? Because like there's so many teams that don't have the luxury of having a carer walk in and undo what they did 25 years ago, 35 years ago, 45 years ago when they were playing the sport, right? So when we educate, and the conversation I was having with Coach K yesterday was that there's kids on the team that will be faster if I spend time with them just work on ankle mobility.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Whereas they're like, oh, we need to get these guys doing more power stuff. We need to get them doing. We need to get them on the field. We need to get them doing stretch. They need to work on their powers. Like, they probably just need to work on their ankle mobility. That will squeeze out that quicker extra step.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once we start to educate even the coaches, if we can't be everywhere at the same time, but we get that message out there, then they'll understand that a warm up, shoulder mobility, hip mobility, ankle mobility, all these things are going to do like as much as, whatever they think in their head is going to make the difference.
Power exercises, some power movements, but in a shorter quantity than what I often see happening.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
We don't need them to be doing, minutes upon minutes or, 50 reps of or jump squat you think they need. They maybe need 5.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Mark and I just figured out our next collaboration.
They did. Do you want to
coach those youth coaches?
Oh, absolutely. I've been trying to work that with basketball in this area too. And one of my guests, actually, Coach Kenny, he's like, we had a long, he might have been my second conversation ever. If I'll send you the link after, so we had the same conversation, and then there's a few pocket of basketball players that you'll see doing dynamic warm-ups, and the kids call it the Coach Kenny exercises because he has got that in their head, and then they go back to the other teams, and they're the ones who are leading the dynamic warm-ups for their team. So he's out there doing it. So yes, we definitely
That's
need to have more of that voice out there,
yeah,
no
my
doubt.
well, kids would say that they would go to a Blue Jays game and they would see the players warming up, doing all of the dynamic
Same
mobility,
stuff that we're doing.
doing the single leg glute bridges, and they'd be like, "Oh, Coach Kara, like we were at the Jays game and they were doing your warm
Our
up,
exercises, yeah.
not mine." But yeah,
Yeah.
it's that I like it when that light bulb goes off for them, right? Of like,
Yes.
we really need to get those kids changing their mindset.
I mean, it validates what we're doing, and it just tells those kids that we're that good. Like, I mean, like we're not just making this stuff up. Like, if you saw the Jays doing it and you're doing it, it's probably the right thing for you to be doing.
Great thing. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway, I realize the time. I got to jump off and go give an orthodontist all of my money for my daughter's teeth. So
That's it's so funny you say. I know you got to run, but my son's first orthodontist appointment. I was like, listen, I used to say you could be whatever you want when you grow up.
you know,
You have to be there with us when you grow up.
that's what I've been saying for the last. It's good. I mean, the most expensive mistake I ever made was letting her suck her thumb, but it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Sidebar. All right.
Okay.
Thanks. See ya. Too funny. CCCTT, yes, it will be available for future viewing. And actually, didn't say it to Kara, but I'm going to link her on it so she can pull out that soundbite and use it for hers too, because I think she just really captured her vision, who she is, and what she does in that little mini conversation about what finds you. And that's not to knock big box gyms and the other organizations out there that offer like circuit trainings and stuff. A bunch of those pop up, and they're all good, right? So I'm not saying that those are wrong because everyone finds their place somewhere. But just hearing Kara talk about that a second ago really did. It just made me glad to know that those people are out there too, because that is going to be the place for somebody. And if it's not for you, tell your friends. If you know someone in the GTA, to follow KFA Fitness, KSA Fitness. What's your proper handle, Kara? KSA Fitness Toronto, and follow her. She's doing great work. She's doing awesome work, like many of you are. So that being said, I have about 10 more minutes. I want to just throw this out one more time. The question I asked was, what finds you? And the reason why I asked the question is because we often talk about who your ideal client is, who that person is you that you love to work with. And then by contrast, I asked the question, what finds you? Because like a Venn diagram, there's those people that you say you want to work with these people, and these are the people that come in, and sometimes they overlap, and you have this amazing connection. So it's just fun. I just want to hear for some of you out there, who are the people? And the reason why I said that, my example was, I love working with men, introducing them to Pilates and just showing them that that's a missing link for their training, sport conditioning, whatever it is. But then I get a lot of people who, from a mental health perspective, are asking harder questions, and I just want to find healing through movement. I want to find deeper meaning and just connection and that way to help them make sense of their world. They come in. So I just end up having these solid conversations with people who are really trying to explore movement and understanding for their body. So those people are finding me, while at the same time I have an ideal, and who that is for you is the question. So answer it in the comment section after, when this goes onto Instagram or Facebook in the Core Conversations group page. I will recycle that piece for Kara as well. So please follow her. She's doing some great work here in the city. And we are back at it tomorrow with a guest. And like always, I haven't double checked who that is, so I'm going to have to send that out shortly. But thank you so much for following. And yes, the replay will be here. Appreciate you all. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll see you tomorrow.